It's gonna be one of those meetings already. All right, Sheila, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. The time is now 7:01 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Reichel,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan,
Here.
Trustee Britnell,
Here.
Trustee Klassen,
Here.
Trustee Poston, Trustee Seifert.
Here.
All right, may we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please be seated. First item on tonight's agenda is public comments. Persons desiring to make a public comment on items not on the agenda, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to non-agenda items?
No, I did not hear from anyone today.
I do not show any raised hands at the moment, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
They're both awful quiet.
Yeah, can we get the volume turned up?
They're quiet.
They're super quiet, yeah.
Okay.
Sheila, why don't you speak?
Let's try it again.
Sheila?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Is that better?
That's
We're
better.
good.
Yes, we can now
Okay.
hear you for sure. All right.
Perfect.
And I don't believe we have anybody signed in from the public to speak to non-agenda items.
Is there anything on the?
Nobody signed up here?
Signed up? Okay. All right. We will move right along to the consent agenda, which contains the minutes of the April 22nd, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting, approval of the fermented malt beverage and wine liquor or license renewal for Come and Go, award of a bid for the Home Avenue paving project, and resolution number 21, series 2024, a resolution expressing the appreciation of the Board of Trustees for the services of Samuel Flores as a trustee of the town of Silt. I would like to separate resolution number 21, series 2024 out just so I can read the whole.
Yeah, I want to
resolution.
discuss number 3 a little
I'd
bit.
like to separate 3 out, too.
Okay. Go ahead, we will go ahead and discuss item number 3, the award of bid for the Home Avenue paving project.
So I don't know, can you answer, I guess I have a couple of questions. Some people have asked me, and I just want to get this on record for people watching, because there was the increase. So number 1 is, why was it increased to 8-inch main? I mean, what was the purpose of that?
It's not, it's adding another
Or
8-inch
eight, yeah.
main. The 6-inch main is gonna stay there. What that'll do is carry more water through our pipes, because right now have more shares in the ditch than we can put in our pipes. So we gotta upsize our pipes to pump more water. So,
Okay, yeah, because I mean, I just wanted to clarify for some people. And then, so, long story short, what are we gonna, so with the increase, it says at the bottom, the budget will need to include funding for additional crosswalk improvements. So what are we missing on this? Is it still gonna get done, or do we have to skip out on something?
well, I think like the 1400 block of Ballard, that's under engineering right now. And I believe once we get it engineered, we may be able to do a lot of that in-house. So that'll save us money there. And the crosswalks, I haven't really looked into what they actually want there. What I gotta get with CDOT, what we can and can't do on the crosswalks. So I know we'll buy new lights, and just like we have on 7th Street, but
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, one more. I thought there was one more, but, so the budget overrun was 364 from the budget line item. So what does that mean? I guess, what does that come out? That was the question somebody asked me, and I guess if you can answer that. What was that? It says the 364,
64 is what we're short on the bid.
and that was because of the line?
No, well, 100 and, I think 106,000 of that was because of the
Okay,
line.
that's what I wanted to clarify, was that. I thought that's, but I just wanted you to answer that, because, like I say, I know somebody was watching, I just said I would clarify these couple of questions, so. I guess that's all I had.
Yeah. And then, well, my question is, why so much? Because, we budgeted 400,000 and the budget was approved in December. So why is it almost double in just a few months?
Good question. I had that same question. What I'm seeing, the prices were taken off for our bid or our budget off previous bids that we've got. And I think right now it's the economy. I'm not for sure, but everybody I talk to out there, they're having problems getting help. So they're ending up paying people more. And so that's the only thing I can come up with why it's more.
Yeah. No, I was just curious because I read everybody's bids, and one person bid $1,700 just to reset a mailbox. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's not the bid we're going with, but I could not believe that somebody actually thought they could $1,700 just to reset a mailbox.
They'll do whatever they can to make some
Yes,
money. But
exactly. And so, and my other question is, so is there anything on Home Avenue that we could save till next year? Like the sidewalks. Is there any way we can cut that cost down just to have more money to do the other projects?
I don't believe we should. I think we need to complete it. Because, if we start putting things off, there's other roads that need care, and that's going to put another road down the road. And it's just, my plan is to get on a 7-year plan. Get all our roads done, and then every 7 years, do the maintenance on it, whether it be chip and seal, an overlaid, but to keep our roads in good shape.
Yeah.
So I'd rather not hold anything out if we can do it.
Yeah,
through the whole
and I was
project.
just asking that because looking at the Ballard project, 300,000 was budgeted, but if we go with this plan, then we only have 240,000 for Ballard. So it seems like that project's going to be cut short.
Well, that I'm hoping that with the Public Works Department, we can do a lot of that work in-house and save some money, like the dirt work or the prep for a new sidewalk.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of wish we had more of a heads up with this sort of increase.
No, I
before.
understand, and I'm going to look at the grant project a little bit closer. Because we're going to go for a grant on that, and that's budgeted for 700,000. But if this came in at 600,000, that project may be a lot more than 700,000.
Yeah, gotcha. Now I'm just asking a question because like on Orchard, there's some bulb outs in sidewalks that most likely aren't going to be attached to any sidewalk. I mean, maybe 40, 50 years from now, but it's like, are there things like that could be eliminated
There's
to
bulb
save
outs
some money?
on the north side of home, but that's part of the traffic calming also.
Okay.
So that's why they're in there.
Okay. No, that's good. And and ever since I've been on the board, I've always been for crosswalks. And it's a difficult decision in my mind. Because I'm for crosswalks and sidewalks. And yes, I know a lot of people on that section of Ballard Avenue too, and every time it rains, they get flooded out.
Yeah, and that's
So,
part of it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's okay, so are crosswalks more important to me than the one block of drainage? And, pedestrians, and, with the way traffic is just flying up and down the roads, pedestrian safety is real important to me. So I'd rather see the money spent on crosswalks for pedestrian safety as opposed to the drainage. So after thinking about it long and hard, it's like, I feel, money's better spent with pedestrian safety.
Yeah, well, that's part of the Home Avenue project, is pedestrian safety. There's a lot of kids that walk through that subdivision that walk to the school, where you got a 4-foot sidewalk, and these are being changed to 6-foot sidewalks with the bulb outs to slow down traffic. So.
Yeah, and when I say crosswalks, basically the Lion Boulevard one, because we have to build the island and get the lights and all of that. So I mean, I'd still be more for the Lion Boulevard crosswalk before the 1400 block of Ballard. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not happy with the cost of Home Avenue, but we could do Home Avenue. But I'm saying instead of the 1400 block of Ballard, because we may be short money, and I know Public Works will do a lot to try to keep those costs down. But if there's 200,000 budgeted for crosswalks, and we have 240, we definitely have enough for the crosswalks.
In fact, I
So
can do some more investigating and
That's
get back
why,
with you on
yeah.
it.
I mean, I'm almost. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for the board, but I mean, I'd almost be inclined to hold off on this thing, for a couple weeks till we had, some more information. But that's just me. And I guess I have another question. So, $100,000 comes out of the irrigation fund.
106,000.
Or 106 comes out of irrigation fund. So the bid was 764. So 364. Does that include the 100,000?
No,
Okay. All right. So 764. So minus the 100,000 because we'd take that out of irrigation. Then basically it's 764. So the budget overrun, I guess, is 264.
264,
Okay.
close to that, yes.
So I mean, it's yes, it's still 364, but if
Yeah.
we pull that money out of irrigation, then it's 264, so that's not as bad as the 364. So that in itself is good. But anyway, that's all I have on that.
I have a question. Mine's more about budget modeling, and I don't know what your involvement was during the budgeting process last year, and I don't want to pretend to shoot the messenger, and maybe this should be directed at Treasurer Tucker. We made a budgetary line item based on old data. How do we update our modeling to make sure that we're not repeating this?
We need to, yes, and we will. You can't look at what these contractors are going to charge. You don't know what their prices are going to be. So you go off of previous jobs that they've done for the town. So you look at their line items for asphalt, for gravel, and you try to do the best you can as off that.
I'm thinking more generally, is there an industry accepted practice that says you go up 7% or 8%? You take for certain, let's call them sub items or individual tasks in a larger project, you'd say, well, labor's going up 12%, materials are going up 9%. I'm thinking more generally about the way that we're modeling out these projects in order to get them included in the budgetary process. It would help to have that built in so that we know we can at least use older data as a baseline, but update it accordingly.
Update it 10% or whatever.
I don't want to pretend I'm an expert and know what those
Okay.
numbers should be, but again, it's not going to be isolated to this project in all likelihood.
Correct.
So I think we should look at updating our budget modeling.
Okay.
I'm good.
The only thing I have to piggyback on Chris's thing, my only thing is if we try and postpone part of the project, it doesn't save us 50,000. I'd save us 50 this year, but to get that same 50,000 done next year, it could be 100,000. So it's just the mobilization, get it all done at one time. Anytime you try and break a project up into multiple stages, especially multiple years, the budget's not gonna just be that portion we pull out to try and get something else done. It's going to multiply next year. We do still have healthy fund balances, so if we need to pull from general fund later on to get a project completed this year, so we don't get off your hopefully the 7-year track you're going for, that's always an option.
Yeah, and I'm 100% for sidewalks and crosswalks. I was just kind of looking at this problem, going, well, okay, is there any compromise here?
Yeah.
And looking at what they budgeted, sidewalks are $100,000 on the project. So it's kind of like that's kind of so that's kind of where I was coming from.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm good with going ahead and approving that.
Yeah, it's a necessary improvement. I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. I think this would be a reasonable use, short-term use of a reserve fund to ensure that we can get these timely things done. And it will cost more next year, because we just talked about the cost going up.
Yeah.
We'll save 50 this year, it'll cost us 100 next year. That to me,
That's
I
true.
worry
Costs will
about
go up.
that as the next 6 public
Yeah.
works projects come down, and to your earlier point, Joe, a year later, it's not just time.
Yeah,
It's
money.
50, 80, 110% cost increases.
It's going
One
up
year
every
will be
Yeah.
3. With that model, we'll be pushing back the next street's work 3 to 5 years. It's a downward spiral. And if we can leverage our reserve funds to prevent that, that works for me.
Yes, I'm glad we have plenty of reserves for that. I just don't want this to become a habit where we're always, oh, we have reserves. Let's just go for it.
Right.
But I mean, it's gonna go up a month from now, the way things are escalating. I mean, that's the trouble. We put it off a week, and it's gonna just keep going up. And there's no way of knowing, there's no way of knowing some materials can double in 6 months, and there's nothing to control over it. You wanna get it done, you're gonna pay the piper, because it's just what it is.
Yeah. Yes, but I would like some better estimates on the 1400 block at Ballard and the crosswalks.
Okay, and right now, 1,400 blocks in engineering stage.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I get back that, I'll get a report to
Okay.
you, and I'll work on the crosswalks.
Okay.
Okay. The other one I wanted to break out was Resolution 21, Series 2024, so I just want to make sure that Mr. Flores is with us.
He is.
He is? Okay.
Would you like me to unmute him?
If you would be so kind.
And he's gone.
There he's
He's
back.
back.
Can you hear us?
We can, yes.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So I'd just like to read, Resolution number 21, Series 2024, a resolution expressing the appreciation of the Board of Trustees for the services of Sam Flores as a trustee of the town of Silt. Whereas Sam Flores served as a trustee from the town of Silt until May 6, 2024, and whereas Sam Flores was appointed as trustee on April 27, 2020, and elected on April 5, 2022. And whereas Sam Flores had served as a trustee with diligence and loyalty and has made significant and lasting contributions to the town in that capacity. And whereas Sam Flores will be missed by this board and the residents of the town of Silt. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the town of Silt, Colorado as follows. The sincere thanks of the Board of Trustees and residents of the town of Silt are extended to Sam Flores for his service to the town. Sam Flores is wished the very best of success and happiness in his future endeavors. This resolution shall be spread at large in the minutes of this meeting, and a certified copy thereof shall be delivered to the said Sam Flores. Introduced, read, passed, and adopted at the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the town of Silt, Colorado on the 13th day of May, 2024. And as it said in there, yes, Sam, thank you very much for being on this board. It was great to have someone on the board with, opinions not like others. But you always brought those. You always brought those forward.
There, you got a smile out of him.
In a very positive way and open conversation. I truly enjoyed having you on this board since I've been on here.
Well, thank you guys. It's been an honor to serve my community and to work with you guys. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I feel the board has the citizens' best interest at heart, and you guys are doing a good job, and keep doing a good job and doing what you're doing.
So, Mr. Mayor, we need a motion and
Do you need a motion to approve the consent agenda? All right. Someone like to make a motion?
Yep. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Trustee Seifert, seconded by Trustee Britnall. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you, Sam, for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sam.
good luck with everything.
Good luck. You'll be
Good
missed.
luck.
Yes.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. Bye.
Next item on the agenda is conflicts of interest.
Nothing here.
I will once again recuse myself from the second reading of ordinance number 7, series 2024, with the land lease agreement between the town of Silt and Highwater Farm, since my daughter is employed there this summer. So Mayor Pro Tem, you'll take over on that one.
Okay.
Any agenda changes by staff for the board? Okay. Seeing none, the next item is the water plant construction update. You guys would like to jump up to the table and fill us in with all the good news you have?
All right, thank you. Good evening. Dan Galvin with Garney Construction. Monthly update to the board for the water project Health and safety, again, we continue with the safe site. No safety incidents to date. Again, a shout out to the plant staff wearing PPE and following safety guidelines on site, much appreciated. And we continue with our controlled entry in and out of the plant with chain and lock as opposed to our electronic gate. Construction progress. Do have a couple pictures up there. I believe, I guess they're included in the meeting minutes. But we continue with dewatering on the site, excavation. The initial picture is the 12-inch pot of water reroute line that was in the access road in and out of the plant. Again, we got good cooperation from folks with our bypass road. And then photo 2 and photo 3 are site excavation. Got a good pad in there for us to continue to build on, making good progress with that work. And so moving forward in the next few weeks is formwork, rebar, and concrete for our initial slab on grades for the backwash tank and our chemical trenches. Schedule, we continue to track progress. We are real close. We have some good back and forth with CDPG, awaiting the approval with those folks, and equipment release. So some of that pending equipment release is delaying the finish of our schedule. And again, we continue to monitor that. Budget, contingency log. I believe I saw it going around, and that was in the minutes as well. We added a few wins with signing up local subcontractor for coiling overhead doors, and then deducted a little bit from our contingency balance for some additional work with the 100% drawings and some security with bonding, some of our larger activities. So from last month, we have a delta of about negative $48,000 from that 2.7 million that is our combined contingency there. And then billing to date, I apologize, I didn't look at that number, but I believe we're now upwards of 1.5 million billed. And with that, I can take any questions.
I have a quick question on, you have the overhead door with Kenny's, and it said savings realized. It didn't cheap, what got realized, well, how much savings?
We initially had another outfit on board. Their preliminary product, so that they submitted to the project, did not meet the engineer standards, and so we went out again. There was somewhat of a proprietary product, and so we went out again with recommendation from the town. I guess Kenny's does some service work already, and him and another outfit had competitive numbers. And so Kenny's being the local guy that could service the door.
Yeah, I've known him. He's done a lot of work for us. So I've known him forever at the fire department.
Yeah, he was able to.
That's why I didn't know. So he wasn't the original. That's where the savings. Okay.
Yeah. He came with the product that meets the spec.
Okay. I think that's all I had.
There's an item in the logs about site drainage. Looks like it was started back in January and it's still open. Is that because of seasonal?
Yes, a little bit. We are tracking it, going to do some investigative work on site as the road grades out, and then to kind of watch what happens in the wet season to determine the best approach moving forward.
Makes sense. I just noticed most of the things around it open and closed, that it started that long ago, so I was curious. That answers it. Thank you.
How long until not having approval from CDPHE is going to start majorly delaying this project? And by majorly, I'm talking like, at what point are we going to start getting pushed out months?
It's still a ways out for that. We are progressing with equipment submittals and approvals, and then we're just holding off on releasing them. So we're you know, we're on the 1 yard line waiting for the, you know, the ref to come in and let us continue going. So,
right.
yeah, we are actively, you know, working to that end, and just so essentially once they give us that approval, you know, we'll be able to keep moving forward. Yeah.
Who is currently taking lead with coordinating with CDPHE around that?
Dewberry Engineers, they've been communicating with them during the design process, and they are the point of contact now.
I mean, if we're getting close to this resulting in delays and potential cost overruns, I think a political overture to the administration may be appropriate, but you need to tell us when that moment's going to come, because if we're risking the budget and keeping this on track, we need to be pulling out all the stops.
It's a regular discussion topic in our weekly construction meetings. And again, as of late, the news is positive. There are additional folks at CDPHE that are reviewing the documentation and in regular communication with Dewberry. I'll look at that. We'll talk that over with the group. But my initial response would be, you know, we're right there, and, you know, the team doesn't, I mean, we're monitoring it, but it's not at that elevation of concern yet.
All right, but to mobilize a political response to that takes a little time.
Right.
So we need some lead time to implement that if that's required.
Great, I can add that to this week's agenda for our weekly meetings.
Because you guys, meetings are on Tuesday mornings?
Tuesday afternoons.
Tuesday afternoon.
Dan, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is Sam with Dewberry. So the last few weeks, we've started to get more activity from the state on this. Last week, we got their preliminary record of approved waterworks for the new plant. And so they're showing a lot of signs of life. And I think we returned it with some comments on it, some changes, some filling in of the blanks that they had asked us to do. So I think that's a big step towards getting where we need to go for approval.
Okay. I guess my thing would be, if we're not moving in the complete right direction by our next board meeting, I'd like to know, you know, at that point, we need to take some next steps. That's 2 weeks from now. It's been a long time that we're waiting on them, so.
Noted. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, that's the only question I had, is what the mayor just asked.
Any other questions? No? Okay. All right. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Yes.
6:10, so we'll be here the first Monday next month again.
Okay. Yeah, if we can just have an update
And Leslie.
at the next meeting, yeah. And you don't have to, I mean, a memo in the board packet through Joe is fine on that, or through
Great.
Jim, yeah.
Yeah, great.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Colorado River District regarding the Shoshone water rights with Amy Moyer. Coming up.
Mr. Mayor, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now? How about now?
Yeah, no, I can.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All right, good evening.
Good evening, council members. I believe you may have some slides in your packet. I don't know if we can pull them up. And if not, I can certainly provide an update. Let's see.
Can you slide the microphone just a little bit to
Yes.
you?
Perfect. There we go.
Oh, there we
And
go, yep.
here we go. Well, I will go ahead and introduce myself and get going. So my name is Amy Moyer. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Colorado River District. And I am here tonight to talk about the Shoshone water rights preservation effort. We are working on this at the Colorado River District in partnership with a growing coalition of over 20 local municipalities on Colorado's western slope, all of the main stem counties, and a number of the water entities and irrigation districts within. So I have a few slides to walk through with the town council, but just going maybe one slide before, if you aren't familiar with the Colorado River District, we are a local government entity formed in 1937 by Colorado's General Assembly to be a voice for West Slope water, to be an entity that helps advocate for West Slope water across 15 Western Slope counties, including Garfield County. And so again, today I'm here to talk about the historic Shoshone water rights and a water right acquisition that is in progress and has been really a foundational legacy level effort over the last 2 decades in Western Colorado. So just to orient you, if you go down to the next slide about the Shoshone hydropower plant and the water rights, the Shoshone hydro plant is located about 8 miles east of the city of Glenwood Springs. If you've all may be pretty familiar with it, driving through the Glenwood Canyon. But it's owned by the Public Service Company of Colorado. That's a subsidiary of Xcel Energy. And these water rights are incredibly important for a number of reasons. It's associated with the hydropower plant that produces about 15 megawatts of electricity. That's enough electricity to to serve about 15,000 customers. But these water rights are incredibly senior. There are 2 water rights attached to this hydropower plant. A water right appropriated in 1902 for 1,250 CFS, and another water right appropriated in 1929 for 158 CFS. So altogether, that's 1,408 CFS attached to this water right, which is a lot of water. If that water right was fully exercised, it would command a little over 1 million acre feet over the year. They're also non-consumptive, so I'll show a map here in just a second. So what this means is with the location of this hydropower plant located in the Glenwood Canyon, the way our water rights work in terms of seniority, these water rights are over a century old. The power plant is over a century old, and so they command the flow of the river by calling out upstream diverters on the Colorado River. So you have your large trans-mountain diversions, your large reservoirs high up in the system where the Colorado River originates. And so it's incredibly important to pull water through the upper Colorado. It spins through the turbines. The Shoshone hydropower plant diverts water near the Hanging Lake Tunnel. It takes it through about a 2.5 mile tunnel, drops it down the penstocks, which spin to create power, and then those water rights flow downstream to be used for multiple uses. And I'll get into the benefits, but of course, for the town of Silt, incredibly important for the dilution factor to dilute salinity and sediment for the town's drinking water and to help our communities abide by their wastewater discharge permits. And so what that means is that water is non-consumptive, flows through the power plant, and then it's available for a multitude of uses. And it also operates year-round. So we're used to, in Colorado, most of our large influential water rights are tied to irrigation. And so they only operate typically during the irrigation season from April to November. And so this Shoshone water right is so important because it's non-consumptive and operates year-round. So if you go down to the map, you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about. So when you're thinking about the Colorado River system, you can see those large reservoirs at the top of the system, many of which are diverting water over to our Front Range cities. And so with the Shoshone hydropower plant located right in the middle, when it's calling water because of those senior water rights, it pulls those native clean, cool flows down to that power plant, and then again, continues on downstream for a multitude of uses. So if you keep going to the next slide, I've touched on a few of the benefits already, but these flows support over 250 miles of the Colorado River, providing important habitat benefits, recreation benefits for our communities that drive the economies of those communities. It provides important water security for our agricultural diverters and agricultural users, while also, again, by pulling down that clean, cool water from the headwaters, it's important for crop yields because it can reduce the salinity that's natural in the Colorado River. And without those dilution flows, you could expect your crop yields to decrease. And again, on the drinking water side, for communities like the town of Silt that pull their water directly from the Colorado River, these dilution flows support the ability for the water treatment plant to treat that water. It supports communities' ability to abide by their wastewater permits, discharge permits. I think all of our communities that experienced the Grizzly Creek fire know how important dilution is. We at the Colorado River District were really proud to be involved in some of the efforts to develop those monitoring stations so that we can help notify communities when the silt and the sediment and the debris flows resulting from the Grizzly Creek fire means that communities need to take a close look at the ability for the water treatment plants to function. It's incredibly important for our recreation economies up and down the Colorado River to provide those dependent flows so that our rafting companies, fishing companies can hire dependable workers, can hire, have that certainty that they will be able to operate during those recreation seasons. So if you continue on down, I mentioned this at the beginning, that really acquiring these historic water rights has been a decades-long effort for a growing coalition on the western slope, starting with all of the 5 main stem counties: Grand County, Eagle County, Garfield County, Mesa County, and Summit County are all the anchor points of our coalition. We have a number of our reservoirs, irrigation entities, and municipal water providers, and a number of the municipalities therein as well. And if you continue on down, so in terms of the timeline, the status of where we are at with these historic water rates, and really why I'm here talking about them now, is right before the holidays in December of 2023, the Colorado River District entered into a purchase and sale agreement with Xcel Energy to transfer these historic water rights to the Colorado River District. So we are not acquiring the power plant and any of the power infrastructure. We are only acquiring the water rights. And so the situation that is at play is that we will lease those water rights back to Xcel Energy to use for hydropower purposes as long as that power plant is operational. It is old. It's over a century old. It's in the Glenwood Canyon, and as we all know, the Glenwood Canyon has experienced a number of natural hazards that make operating a hydropower plant that old in Glenwood Canyon pretty difficult. And so it was uncertain for Colorado's western slope how long that power plant would be operational to call that water down. So with that purchase and sale agreement, we have a number of contingencies to meet before we can close that transaction, ideally prior to the end of 2027. So first, we are working with the state of Colorado to add what's called an additional beneficial use to that water right. So right now it's decreed solely for hydropower. What we are going to do is add an in-stream flow water right so it can continue to call that water down, remain in the river for the same 2.5 mile stretch where it's typically diverted for the power plant, and then release back to the river at the same point of diversion at the Shoshone hydropower plant so that it can continue on downstream for all of those beneficial purposes that I mentioned previously in terms of these additional cool, clean dilution flows, additional flows for our economies, additional flows for agriculture. So we're working on negotiating that in-stream flow agreement with the state of Colorado. We have to also go to water court to add that beneficial use. We have to develop the funding. So this acquisition is a $99 million purchase price. And so right now we have fundraised in a little over 5 months, $48 million for this purchase price. The moment that we signed the purchase and sale agreement, the Colorado River District committed $20 million. The state of Colorado in January of this year committed $20 million to this purchase price. That was effectuated as the legislature wrapped up here over the last week. And then we're working with all of our local partners and our growing coalition to continue to fundraise. And so right now we have a little over 8 million from our local partners. I can talk about some of the specific entities, but the city of Rifle here in this mid river area committed $100,000. We have West Divide Water Conservancy District has committed $50,000. And again, we have a number of additional local contributions that are adding up to that 8 million, and we are expecting and hoping that we can fundraise about $15 to $20 million from our local partners, and that is setting up an opportunity for us to request federal funding. So part of the beauty of how everything is lining up is we have a willing partner and seller in Xcel Energy, and we have some opportunities on the funding side that can make it a reality for the West Slope to achieve a $99 million purchase price. The Inflation Reduction Act that was passed last year included $4 billion for drought mitigation, primarily to be used along the Colorado River. And so we are working to set up at least a 50-50 match of local and state funds so that we can request between 39 and 49 million from the federal government to achieve this purchase price. And then the final contingency is the disposition of proceeds have to be approved by Colorado's Public Utility Commission, given that we would be acquiring these water rights from the Public Service Company of Colorado. So you can go to the next slide. I know that was a lot of information to pack in there. And so why now? We have been chasing this for over 2 decades. The West Slope and the Colorado River District had approached Xcel Energy multiple times to say, would you be willing to sell these water rights? They're so incredibly important to maintain in perpetuity. And again, we have a willing partner, a willing seller in Xcel Energy. We have those historic funding amounts that are making this a reality. And given the increased hotter and drier future that we are expecting to see, the increased risk for wildfires or other natural hazards, it has never been more important for the Western Slope to solidify these water rights and solidify this flow regime that we are all have become accustomed to here for future generations. And I think if you go down to the last slide, really just to wrap up, we are in this local funding realm. I know this is an informational item, but we would welcome an opportunity for the town to consider supporting this effort financially. We would welcome letters of support from this town. It's incredibly important for us as we're chasing these federal dollars that we have strong support from all of our Western Slope communities and can really articulate why these water rights are incredibly meaningful across the Western Slope as a whole. So I will pause there. I am happy to answer any questions from the town council.
Mr. Mayor, after you've had an opportunity to ask questions, I'd like to put the importance of this arrangement in the context of the town of Silt's water rights.
Okay.
I have a quick question. What happens if the PSA doesn't get closed?
So we have until the end of 2027 to close the purchase and sale agreement. If we cannot complete those contingencies, we cannot execute this final purchase and sale agreement. And so with all of our funding commitments, they are completely contingent on achieving those closing conditions and reaching this final transaction. So without achieving this purchase and sale agreement, the Colorado River District cannot acquire these water rights. And if the power plant were to go offline, this opportunity to maintain this historic flow regime is really lost. And so we often get the question of, well, who else is interested in buying these water rights? Or why is this so important to the Western Slope? And the answer is really in the Colorado Water Prior Appropriation System. So in essence, nobody else, especially some of our front range diverters, need to come in and buy these water rights. By the fact that these water rights could be at risk of abandonment or could be at risk of being extinguished or go away, the next in line can really take that water. And some of the next in line diverters are some of our larger Trans Mountain diverters that can then take those waters into their reservoirs or into their East Slope collection systems. So it's an interesting question that we always get of who are you worried about buying these, or who is the competition?
Who's next on Xcel
It's
Energy's
really-
list of
Exactly.
prospective buyers?
It's really if, we can't acquire these water rights, they're at risk of being lost.
I have
Consumptively lost.
Well, since they're non-consumptive water, I just want to be careful with that they're non-consumptive water rates, but they could be lost to the Colorado River system, lost to the flow.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if the federal government becomes the largest individual contributor, there isn't any way they can say, this is our water. Is that could they ever do that?
That it is correct that there is no mechanism that they could say we would like an ownership interest. That's something the Colorado River District would not agree to, and I don't think any of our partners would agree to. And so I think our goal is that we would have certainly over 50% of the funding come from local and state sources, so that there isn't, one entity that has a controlling interest by any means of this water. And so certainly what we are trying to do is bring down the amount that we would need to request from the federal government and bring up the contributions that we can secure on the local level, so we can really demonstrate that the Colorado River District, along with our other local contributions, are really the majority financial backer of this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I got two questions. So who is actually going to be the holder of these water rights?
So the Colorado River District will be the owner of these water rights. Again, we can lease these water rights back to Xcel Energy for hydropower purposes. And then we will also allow the state of Colorado to exercise the in-stream flow water right. And the reason for that is the state of Colorado is the only entity that can exercise this type of water right, where we can say we're going to leave it in the stream and it can still command these flows on the Colorado River. But it was really important to the Colorado River District that we remain the owner of these water rights in perpetuity.
And then leasing it back to Xcel, is this a one of those $1 for 10-year leases back to them? So there's no actual funding mechanism coming back from leasing out?
Correct. I think the in the purchase and sale agreement, the annual lease is $10
Okay.
back to Xcel.
And then, I mean, maybe you don't know this answer. Why does Xcel now want to
Yeah.
sell them?
That's a great question, and we get that question quite a bit, especially when we have approached them for many, many years, knowing how important these water rights are. You know, if you look at the Glenwood Canyon, the Xcel Energy has no plans to take this power plant offline, but it is in a precarious spot. It's been offline right now, the power plant, for over a year due to rockfall debris that's hanging pretty precipitously over their power plant. So it's a difficult plant to operate. It's old. It's threatened by a number of natural hazards in the canyon. And at the same time, I think we had some changeover in Xcel's leadership team, their negotiating team, and they could see the benefits to all of their constituents on the western slope as well, and really realized now was the right time to partner with the Colorado River District on this transaction.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before our attorney adds his to it? Okay. That might spark some more questions.
So the Shoshone water right really for a century or more has formed one of the pillars of how western slope water rights are administered. The guarantee that a minimum of 1,250 CFS of water was going to pass through Glenwood Canyon is built into a number of plans for augmentation and other water rights strategies, in particular for municipal water providers, because it was simply a guarantee. The plant was there, the water went through the plant, and below that point, the water was available for additional consumptive use. Silt is is sandwiched between the Shoshone right, which provides a benefit, and a number of water rights in the Grand County, Mesa County, which have very large decreed entitlements to them, which require the delivery of water to, for example, the Cameo diversion, which is you're driving toward Palisade through the canyon. You see the colonnaded structure there on the river that diverts water into various irrigation systems in the Grand County, as well as other uses made by municipal water providers in the Grand County. The town of Silt, because we got into the water business late, has very junior water rights compared to most of your other municipal jurisdictions in Garfield County. Our most senior water rights date to the 1940s, which are junior to the Shoshone right. And we have, throughout the course of a number of years, adjudicated so the senior silt right from the 1940s, and then we have adjudicated a number of water rights in addition to that, with lessening priority as needs have arisen and kind of water planning has become more sophisticated. The utilization of those water rights, consistent with the town's analysis for how much growth it can sustain given reservoir contracts that we have and other augmentation supplies that we have acquired, are in part premised on the continued delivery of the Shoshone water rights. If the Shoshone water rights were to go away, which Denver has been chipping away at that for years now through what are called a series of call reduction agreements that they have made with Xcel. And when you think of who the biggest economic generators are for Xcel, it is Front Range power consumers and not West Slope power consumers. There is a lot of political pressure historically for Xcel to give in to Front Range demands to reduce the amount of flows at Shoshone to the detriment of the West Slope. This agreement provides the opportunity to lock in place a flow regime which Silt definitely benefits from. We utilize less augmentation water, that is, less of our water that we currently have in storage when the Shoshone water rights are operating at their decreed capacity than if they were to go away. And as Amy mentioned, water rights which are junior to Shoshone but senior to the town of Silt, the big ones are primarily Trans Mountain diverters that take water out of the Colorado River system onto the Front Range. If that were to happen, we are going to have to reevaluate our augmentation supplies and what we can do with them in the future, because we will need more water to augment out of priority depletions, because there will be less water flowing through the river. And additionally, as Amy mentioned, and as we all know from having gone through the water treatment plant exercises over the last 2 years, the town of Silt is very dependent upon as good a quality of water as we can get out of the Colorado River as possible. And there are salinity loading issues due primarily to hot springs upriver from us. There are sediment issues that are made worse when flows are lower. The town benefits from keeping this flow regime in place. And so when it comes time for budgeting, and Amy, you need to make a notation of this, we need to be considering a contribution toward the Shoshone acquisition because Silt is a direct beneficiary of keeping these water rights flowing on the west slope. I'm not going to say that our system falls apart without it, but we will be far more constrained in the amount of growth that we can facilitate into the future if these water rights no longer divert onto the west slope.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions on the financial commitment process that we're working towards. You know, it is important to us to secure these commitments that will be dependent on future appropriations and budgetary processes so that when we request money through these federal funding opportunities that we can show commitments from all of our local partners. And so when I've mentioned that we have $8 million secured, those have gone through a formal action process by the various county, municipal, council processes that have taken place and will likely be fully budgeted in future years, especially since our goal is to wrap up this purchase and sale agreement by the end of 2027 because we have to get through those water court processes. And as your attorney knows, those are not often very quick, but we are trying to make it go as seamless as possible.
Is there an amount that you would request from us?
You know, we want to be respectful of all of the various budgetary opportunities for all of our partners, but the City of Rifle, that I think has similar benefits, committed $100,000, which was an incredibly meaningful contribution. We have requested $2 million from the City of Glenwood Springs that benefits significantly from the economic driver that they receive from their recreation and tourism-based economy. So there is just quite a continuum of different opportunities for local partners to contribute. And of course, we will welcome any contribution and would love to have the town of Silt as a financial contributor to this effort.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about it come budget season.
Come budget season for sure.
Really?
But throughout budget, we cannot make a multi-year.
What we would recommend doing is, so because this would come from the enterprise fund, we actually can.
Okay.
And another way to deal with that would be to budget and appropriate the money and then hold it as a line item in an account pending the closing of the water rights by the River District.
Okay.
Well, I also saw in the stuff that any money that's given to you guys, you're holding it in an account, it's gaining interest. And if for some reason this whole deal fell apart, it would be returned with the interest back to whoever gave it, correct?
That's correct. So we have an escrow account that we have set up for our partners to provide those funds that gain interest to be added to the final purchase and sale price. But if, again, the purchase and sale agreement was not executed, none of those funds would stay in that account and they would be returned to the different local partners. So you're absolutely right.
And we can keep this in our accounts. If we budget it
Right.
and set it aside, we could have some kind of little agreement with the River District that it's been budgeted and we agree to make it available. It can stay in the town's accounts until such time as they're ready to close.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know we just ended budget, but it'll be here before we know it. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely
I do think
putting
this
it
is-
in there.
This is definitely an important one that we need to be a part of. So, okay.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Yeah.
All right. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 13, series 2024. A resolution of the Board of Trustees concerning findings of fact for the annexation of a property owned by Matthew and Susan Jermu, located west of County Road 231 in Garfield County, known as the Lestadian Lutheran Church annexation. into the municipal boundaries of the town of Silt, Colorado. And I will turn this over to the planner chain. I don't know if you have any applicants.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Want to come up?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and a couple housekeeping things I just want to go over. Also associated with this project will be the first reading on ordinance number 3, series of 2024 related to the annexation, and also ordinance 4, first reading, which is the zoning of the property. So there's 3 actions to take. And I also apologize for my motion. I just did the standard, hey, approve the annexation. Well, it should have been approve the findings of fact, Resolution 13, and the 2 ordinances. The 2 ordinances will be coming to you at your next meeting, which I believe is May 28th. It shifted a day off because of Memorial Day.
I think they're on the agenda for today.
Pardon?
They're on the agenda for today.
No, the second reading.
Oh, the second.
Second reading.
Okay,
Yeah,
second
so,
reading.
yeah.
Yeah,
This is the
first
first reading for the 2 ordinances. The resolution does not have first reading. Okay, and if you want to look at it in your packet, this is on page 96. And it's a relatively straightforward annexation. And actually, this is for, the proper name will be the Lestadian Lutheran Church of the Roaring Fork Valley. And it's also in cooperation, I guess, with the Jermu family. First of all, the Lestadian Church was annexed with annexation number 1 by ordinance 22 in series of 2012. Okay, that's a little bit over 3 acres, I believe. And it's at the top of First Street. It's just past Iron Horse, Miraloma, whatever you want to call it. At the top of where Silt Mesa really starts. And the Jermus own almost 7 acres of land, and they're willing partners to donate or sell, convey 0.07 acres, which is 31,500 square feet. And the church has just a little over 3 acres right now. It's been in operation for a while, and they can tell you if you would like to know a little bit more about the church. So there's 3 actions tonight, and when you annex, you annex a property, you also have to zone within a certain time frame. And last but not least, this will take a lot line adjustment, because some of the property owned by the Jermu family will be added to the church itself. That's a lot line adjustment, a boundary line adjustment, and that's done administratively, and that can be done at the end while everything else is being ready to record. And Sheila, if you could go down 2 pages, I'll just put up a location map up so people can see. Okay, so you can see the location right there. The smaller piece is indicated as the church, and then the Jermu property is right next to it to the west. And that originally was called the Wills subdivision exemption in the county. And actually part of Iron Horse or Miraloma was part of Lot 3 of the Wills subdivision exemption. So there were 2 hearings in front of the Planning Commission. The first was on November 8th, and the second was on January 9th. And we had a second hearing because there were some concerns with the neighborhood to the south. And just to summarize them real quick, there were concerns about lighting. There were concerns about lack of communication with the events. The neighbors would like in the future a landscaping or sort of privacy buffer. There were concerns that there could be construction noise when the church does have an expansion. And the concern about construction noise is when you have, a nonprofit, like a church, a lot of times there's the members roll up their sleeves and, they're helping do the construction. And when you do that, you usually do it, on weekends, at night in the summer. So that was one of the concerns. And then there also was a concern about drainage, and actually at one time we thought that it could be from the tail end of the town's water system up there, because one of the mains dead ends on the property, and there's a hydrant to blow off and make sure the water is not stagnant. But Nicole and I went up there with the Public Works Director at the time. Boy, it's funny, he's already gone, Trey. And it's further away from the property than everybody thought, and the way the grading is, no way that was going to cause some drainage issues with the houses. And one of the houses does have some drainage that goes into the basement. And the other thing was that it hadn't been blown off in a couple of years. So the drainage could have been from construction. There are ditches in the area. Mostly they're not lined, and could have been a construction fault. At the suggestion of the Planning Commission, the church had a work session or a meeting with the neighborhood, and there are some notes at the very tail end of this packet, and they are on page 140 and 141 of your packet, and that came from the church itself, so that's from their perspective. But at the end of the day, the neighborhood seemed to be satisfied with things, and you can see, as far as I know, I don't see anyone in the audience. They may be online, I don't know, but I haven't heard anything since the church had that session with them. Issues, the proposed zoning is agricultural residential, and agricultural rural. That's you call it the ag zone district here, and that's one of the two zone districts that allows churches. So it's an appropriate zoning for that. For the comprehensive plan, this is called the agricultural rural residential preserve, and that's the area outside the town limits. Some of it's meant to be a transition point. Some of those areas are far, a couple miles from town utilities. That's not the case in this particular situation, but it seems to comply with the comprehensive plan. We looked at a number of items. Access, there are no problems with access. Water rights, it does have some water rights from Grass Valley Reservoir. Now that has to be used for irrigation, and if they actually built on this 31,000 square feet, you wouldn't be able to use that water, as I understand it, elsewhere on the church. There is no development plan yet for the property. I think thinking about what they may do, and there's been talk about expanding the church itself, and that may be added on to the church building on the present church property. There's talk about expanding parking on this particular site. I know they've thought about a dedicated play area for the kids. And last but not least, you always look at compatibility, and this should be compatible with that neighborhood up there. There's no reason why it can't be. When there were some concerns with the neighbor, I just think it was actually some misunderstandings. And if for some reason, the church went on to another property, the zoning should prevent any long-term compatibility problems with that part of town. And originally that was all part of the rural zone district in the county, which is 1 unit per 2 acres at a minimum. I've made some findings in the staff report that it's eligible for annexation. They provided an annexation map and an appropriate zone district. There's no development right now. And the other one, that there should be a short, I'd say, annexation agreement put together, and that would concentrate on the water used for irrigation as long as they can use it on that site, and that there be a review of any future development on the church property by the site plan review process with the town. And that's even if there's a parking lot in that area. It's just, how are you going to basically, the neighbors want the church to look out for them in the future, and I think everybody's on board with that. So I recommend that you annex the property, that you zone it, and that you also adopt the findings of fact in Resolution 13. And before I open it up for questions, anything from your viewpoint?
Hello, I'm Darren Byman, representing the church. Yeah, thank you, Mark. I think everything you said is accurate, and yeah, no dispute with any of those comments you made. And the biggest issue at the Planning and Zoning Commission was some of the issues with the neighbors, and I think we've addressed the ones that we could deal with quickly, which was like parking lot lighting, some of those easy things, and then yeah, of course the landscape buffer, which will be dealt with in the future. The one point that we're still a little unsure of is this drainage problem, which we did some more checking with our original site drainage engineer from Sopris Engineering, and we do not think any runoff from our current parking lot is flowing to the south to the neighborhood, which there was a complaint about some drainage collection in the basements, which we just have a hard time believing. We have a dry well that goes down on the southern end of our property that goes down almost 17 feet. And we looked in there and it looks about bone dry. So that was what we came up with in the last week, actually. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it certainly didn't look like anything was, coming from the church. And the last thing I do want to let you know, and, sometimes these maps get hidden in actually it's a pretty brief packet this time, under 200 pages, which you probably like to see. But in this boundary line adjustment, if you look carefully at it, part of the church property, the church's property goes out to the midpoint of the right-of-way, and I don't think anybody wants that. The county hasn't responded because the county should want that in their records, that there's no longer, if they accept that, there's no longer private property in the right-of-way, and that's part of the county right-of-way. And I've bugged the county for 2 months, hey, do we need a certificate on this boundary line adjustment plat? Is there anything you need? Is there any kind of resolution that the county wants that they're adding more right-of-way to that county road? It's County Road 231, and I haven't gotten any feedback from them. And, it's not something that's that important right now, because by the time this gets recorded, it could be 3 weeks out, a month, even a little bit more, but it's something that I've been trying to get a response from the county on, and maybe Michael can talk to the county attorney and say, WTF.
Well, we can handle that as part of the subdivision exemption plat. I'm sorry,
Well, it's a boundary line adjustment.
boundary line
yeah.
adjustment plat process, which is handled internally. I would note that one of the proposed conditions of approval for the annexation ordinance is that there will be a very short annexation agreement with the applicant, which will cover essentially two things. One is that a little bit of the water right that irrigates the Jeremy property will be dedicated to the church so that they have irrigation water for future use. The other, it will be a provision that requires that any expansion of use on the property go through what's called the site plan review process. So when additional impacts, uses for the property are contemplated by the church, they will need to comply with that code section and bring in appropriate plans for town review, and that'll be vetted by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So to the degree that when additional uses of the property are contemplated, the town will have another opportunity to make sure that appropriate mitigation is being put in place for that.
And the site plan review is a planning commission function. Any appeal goes to the board.
I have a,
All my questions have been answered so
Answered?
far.
Yeah, I have none.
I do have a couple. You want me to go
Hit 'em.
first?
Hit 'em.
Okay. Usually when we have a piece of property annexed into the town, we do take their water rights. Could the town still take the water rights and lease them back?
Is this Silt project water?
It's pump, yeah, yeah,
I'm not
the
sure.
pump canal.
That FICO water, whatever they call it.
If I remember, and it goes back
Yeah.
5-6 months, I think that they have Silt project water, which we cannot take an assignment of. It has to, under federal law, because it's a Bureau of Reclamation project, the Silt project water is pertinent to the land upon which it's
Yeah.
used.
So it can't be added to the town's water right portfolio.
And it also can't be severed from the land upon which it irrigates because it is tethered to it by federal law. If it's FICO shares, that is something we could consider where we would then take the dedication of the FICO share and lease it back to the owner for long-term uses.
Okay. And then, and I may be incorrect on this, but aren't ag parcels going to be taxed at a lower rate than?
That is simply our name for the zoning. The way that the county assessor looks at valuing property is based upon actual use. And in this case, because they are a nonprofit, I don't think they pay any taxes at all.
Yeah.
So,
So there's no change that way. It's, yeah. It's already, well, no, the Jermu's, yeah, that is,
I mean, it's currently in the
yeah,
county.
the value
so
will
that's-
go, yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
county, yeah, the town.
it's a no net loss
Yeah.
to the town.
And the town will get no net gain either from
That's
property
the-
tax.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, for the board, that's my concern, is we are annexing a piece of property with no net gain for the town. We're not getting a subdivision where houses are gonna get built, it's gonna bring taxes into the town. We are just annexing a piece of property to have another piece of property in the town.
It's just being a good neighbor for the church so they can expand there because they are growing as a congregation. I'm not sure, you know, that's how you term it or not. You know, I was raised Catholic, but, you know, they have been growing, and that's one reason why they have a willing neighbor who's a member of the church, and while they can get the land, they want to get it.
But that's based on our current use, correct? Like, if that ag zoning might allow another future owner that would not be using it as a church, so it'd be taxed differently, is that correct?
If
Theoretically.
If the property sold and was used for a not nonprofit use in the future, then it would become taxable property again.
Yeah.
But upon annexing this piece of property, we have no control over what happens to it.
No, you're
potentially in the future.
You're
we're
assuming
annexing
it's
this-
a church.
We're annexing this
Yeah.
under the presumption that
Yeah.
it will be a tax-free.
Yeah.
This is not your normal annexation where someone's trying to build a subdivision or doing a event center by,
Right.
you know, the BLM or whatever. You know, it's,
It's 31,000 square feet.
What are the alternatives to annexation?
So the challenge, and we'll let the applicants speak to this, is I'm assuming they're planning into the future. They're looking at potential for growth, adding additional uses onto the property at some point. That is really hard to do if one half of your property is in the town and the other half is in the county. And in fact, because there would be by nature a lot line down the middle, applicable setbacks would more or less preclude the unified development of the property. So when the town made the decision in 2012 to annex this property, to the degree that growth is going to occur for this type of use on that land, we kind of signed up for that additional annexed property may be part of that mix.
also that to try to keep the intended land for the boundary line, what is it, 300 something thousand square feet, whatever that is, that's too small, if I'm thinking correctly, to make that a separate parcel in the county, based on the county zoning.
County zoning would be 2 acre minimum.
Yeah,
So
2
it would have to more than double in size
Yeah.
what it currently is intended for, just shifting the line.
Yeah. And that's one reason why it's being annexed before there's this lot line adjustment. I originally said to the county, well, hey, get a lot split done through the county and then they can come into the town. And they go, well, it'd be 2 acres. It wouldn't be 31,500 square feet. And they just said, you know, hey, the county will be a review agency. You guys can do it, you know, in one step instead of going to the county and then it comes for annexation. So it's probably the quickest way, and the county has the ability to get eyes on it if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, too. I mean, it could be zoned anything. You can't discriminate with the church. So a church can technically be allowed in any zone district.
Yeah, but then I think it's supposed to be a special use by the town, and it's just,
Yeah.
actually, it was actually a good thing when I go, oh, one of the only 2 zone districts in the town which allow it. Hey, it makes it a little bit easier administratively from the planning department. You know, this doesn't affect the town negatively. It's you're being a good neighbor for people in the area.
I guess the positive way to look at it, that it could potentially help the town, is if they have a larger church, potentially more people move to town, which then those are tax generating properties at that point, so.
Or they, you know, they go out in the morning for breakfast, go to the Village Smithy in Carbondale at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And, you know, there's a line of cars coming from the church to the smithy. You got to get there at 7:30 or go at 10:30.
The other benefit is the town has control over the review of a future land use application. Remember, you have already approved a very large subdivision just to the south of this, and this gives you this, with this annexation and the term in the annexation agreement, it makes absolutely clear that future uses will come before the Planning and Zoning Commission in order to be evaluated for drainage and lighting, and all the things that had been brought up by neighbors as concerns will have a regulatory opportunity to be vetted at that time.
Yeah, I mean, the tax revenue on 31,000 acre or square feet of vacant land is going to be so minimal. I think it would be the right thing to do it, and I have no quarrels with annexing.
Okay.
It's being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of the transparency of the planning process, so that neighbors, other impacted citizens have a chance to see, review, and potentially voice disapproval about any development, because to your earlier point, we don't know what it's going to be. So we should reserve the right for the public to see it and voice their agreement or displeasure, as the case may be. Yeah, I'm good with it under those conditions.
Okay. All right. This is a public hearing.
So, Mr. Mayor, point of order, we actually, and I would recommend we do this kind of one by one. We've got 3 separate agenda items, if we can do 3 separate public hearings.
Okay, easy enough. So yeah, we will start. The time is 8:25, and I will open up the public hearing in regards to resolution number 13, series 2024. Persons desiring to make a public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
No, I did not hear from anyone.
Okay.
I do not have any raised hands. There is only staff on the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And would anybody here in the public like to speak to this agenda item? All right, seeing no one. The time is 8:26 p.m. and I will close the public hearing in regards to resolution number 13, series 2024. Open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion approving resolution number 13, series 2024. A resolution of the Board of Trustees concerning findings of fact for the annexation of property owned by Matthew and Susan Jermu, located west of County Road 231 in Garfield County, known as the Lestadian Lutheran Church annexation into the municipal boundaries of the town of Silt, Colorado.
Second.
Motion by trustee Clausen to approve the resolution number 13, series 2024, seconded by trustee Seifert. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance number 3, series 2024, an ordinance annexing to the town of Silt, Colorado, certain real property owned by Matthew and Susan Jermu, and located west of County Road 231 in Garfield County, Colorado, known as the Lestadian Lutheran Church annexation. I don't know if you have anything else to add to this plan or chain?
Nothing to add.
Okay, does the applicant have anything to add on this one? Okay, so this is for the annexation into town. So, any discussion by the board before I open up the public hearing?
Nope.
Okay. The time is 8:27 p.m. and I will open up the public hearing for ordinance number 3, series 2024. Persons desiring to make a public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
No, sir.
Okay,
No raised hands.
thank you. And would anybody here in the public like to speak to this agenda item? Okay, seeing none. Time is 8:27 p.m. and I will close the public hearing. Open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 3, series 2024 is presented.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by trustee Seifert to approve the first reading of ordinance number 3, series 2024 as presented, seconded by trustee Clausen. All is in favor?
Aye.
All is opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is the first reading of ordinance number 4, series 2024, an ordinance of the town of Silt, Colorado, zoning as agricultural rural, a 0.723 acre tract of land located west of County Road 231 in Garfield County, known as the Lestadian Lutheran Church annexation within the town of Silt, Colorado. Anything to add to this one, planner chain?
No, sir.
Anything by the applicant? No. All right. Any discussion by the board or
Nope.
for a public hearing? Okay. Time is 8:28 p.m. and I will open up the public hearing for the first reading of ordinance number 4, series 2024. Persons desiring to make a public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program.
No raised hands, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And one last time, would anyone in the public like to speak to this agenda item? Okay. The time is 8:29 p.m. and I will close the public hearing and open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 4, series 2024 is presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by trustee Seifert to approve the first reading of ordinance number 4, series 2024 as presented. That was seconded by trustee Clausen. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the update of the turf replacement program with Adrian Brown, but I do not know if he's not here with us. I'm not sure if he's on the meeting.
He is not on the meeting.
Okay.
He may have left this for staff to address, I have a feeling.
Okay. Let me get down here to where it's at.
Page 142.
142, okay.
Get you started.
So it
Nice.
should be on page 142 of the packet.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
All right. Packet says Adrian Brown will be in attendance to go over his experience with the TRIP program.
I had emailed him earlier today, and his email was kind of unclear as to whether he would be here or not. So I'm kind of gathering that maybe he thought he wasn't needed to present this information.
Okay.
Joe?
Joe, do you have any further
I don't
information?
have anything to
Okay.
relay to you on that.
I do know that Mr. Brown was doing some audits up in the Mesa View subdivision. I don't know what his status is as to how many he has completed at this point. That would be more information that he would be able to provide for you.
Right, okay. Yeah, because we don't have a whole lot in the packet for updates from the last time
No.
he spoke to us. So I think we will probably just table this, and we don't need a motion since it's just an info item, and we will see if he can join us at a future meeting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We want to table that next resolution as well, because that was regarding his list.
His list, yeah.
Well, and the resolution has been before the P&Z, so this is now the updated resolution that did come before you. Oh, it's been a couple of months ago, I suppose. So he has improved this, if you will, revised it from that one you saw prior. Plus, he has added the exhibit that has the pictures that the board had requested as well, so you had a better idea of what some of the trees look like that will be instituted into code if this is approved.
Okay.
And P&Z is fine with the list, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding. And I don't know, it doesn't look like Nicole's on anymore. So from my understanding, it was approved at the P&Z level when they met this last month then.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So as a board, do we want to go ahead and take a stance on this, or do we want to wait for his presentation? I am definitely not a arborist, so the trees on this list, I don't know what is
Yeah.
what from.
I mean, on this one, I trust P&Z on this one.
Okay. All right. Easy enough. Then we'll go ahead and jump in here. So this is resolution number 14, series 2024. A resolution of the town of Silt repealing and replacing resolution number 16, series 2019. Adopting an official street tree list and suggested shrub list for the town of Silt.
Okay.
So as it was stated, this has been reviewed by P&Z and looked good to them, so I'm not sure if there's any discussion at the board level.
I think we can safely say there is a staff recommendation to approve this.
Okay. All right. This is just an action item, so not a public hearing, so if there's no discussion to be had, if someone would like to make a motion.
I think it's Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 14, Series 2024, a resolution of the Town of Silt repealing and replacing Resolution Number 16, Series 2019, adopting an official street tree list and suggested shrub list for the Town of Silt.
Second.
All right. Motion by Trustee Clausen to approve Resolution Number 14, Series 2024, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance number 6, series 2024, an ordinance of the Town of Silt, Colorado, amending and updating town code to prohibit and limit camping within the town on public and private property.
And I'm going to take that
Take
if that's okay.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. All right. So at the prior meeting where this agenda item was discussed, there was a fairly robust discussion around, what the reasons are for why the town's looking at this, and how these regulations would operate. I want to note two changes that we made between first and second reading. First was based upon a comment of the board. We went through and looked at for the word consecutive. So if you will recall, the prior version plus your existing town code had a requirement that you could not exceed a certain number of consecutive days. We removed the word consecutive, meaning that essentially, as written, you could have camping on private property for up to 14 days collectively, not necessarily consecutively. Okay. The second thing that we did was we added a limitation that for camping on private property again, that the camping would be limited to one recreational vehicle. Now, we did this in consultation with talking with Jim Mann, recognizing that you may have different opinions, and we can modify this on second reading to meet your expectations. But the idea is there's a big difference in terms of the impacts to neighbors, the public, if you've got one recreational vehicle on private property where people might be staying for a family event or something like that, versus 5 or 6. And so we put the number 1 in there. That's not magic. You might say, well, it should be 2. You might have your brother and your sister over, each in their RVs, and be there for a few days. That's fine, but I wanted to make you aware that we had inserted that language subject to final vetting by the Board of Trustees. The staff memo did bring up that camping ordinances within municipalities in general were reviewed by the United States Supreme Court a couple of weeks ago. The decision in that case probably will be 3, 4, 5 months down the road. But depending on what the Supreme Court tells us is or is not constitutional, we may be back here in front of you again modifying this. But for now, we feel comfortable with the recommendations that are contained in this proposed ordinance for second reading. Happy to answer any questions, as well as if you want to modify something, that we can help you craft a motion to do so that allows us to pass tonight.
Okay.
So this has nothing to do with, this is completely separate. If I have my RV store, I back in my yard and keep it there, that's entirely different.
You're not camping in it if
Right.
you're storing it.
Yep.
That's right.
I was just trying to, so in the agenda item, the memo says 2.
I found the same thing.
Yeah.
Suggests that we limit the number of RVs on a residential lot to 2.
Yeah,
Oh.
the summary on page 151 says 2 RVs, but the language
In the ordinance
in the
is
ordinance
1.
itself says 1.
1.
So, again, perhaps setting up that you might have a difference of opinion between 1 and 2, and we can change the document accordingly.
I think 1's the better number.
I think 1 is easier to
Yeah,
deal with.
from
From an enforcement
an
standpoint.
enforcement or managing. If you've got one stored on your property and someone else pulls up, there may be exceptions, but more generally, I think enforcement should be binary. There are 0 of them or there are 1 of them.
I'm in favor of 1.
Yep.
Which is how the language is actually written. Yes. Okay.
I'm not sure on the 14 days in a calendar year. I don't know how. I guess what I'm getting at is, like me, I have friends come out and they go hunting, and the one will be there for 7 or 8 days, and then they'll go home, and then a couple, 3 weeks later, I'll get some more that'll stay a few days in there, but it could be more than 14 days in a calendar year. It's, I don't know. I'm just saying, and I know it's not just me, and other people have, come in, they'll go again, and especially during hunting season, people always packing their camper in and staying for more than a few days. You got because you got a month and a half of camping, so, a hunting season, so I don't know if there's any, I don't know, I'm just,
14's not a magic number.
Magic number. 14 is not a magic number, and I think, you know, Chief weighed in last time that we're not going, I mean, we see someone moving a camper, it's not their intentions to go start a tally sheet.
okay, that's, I mean,
I mean, it's, they have, I believe that they need to have a number, so if someone is there for 30 days, they have something
right,
to
and
say.
that's,
You know, this is not, the whole intention of this is not to give a black and white, you know, rule that's going to be followed. I know it's the binary, non-binary, 0 versus 1.
I do.
You know, it's to give a light framework
Well, the
to
conservative, I
stop a
think,
problem if there is
I mean,
one.
the previous
I-
thing
and I
is we
can-
said the 14 consecutive days, and what would happen with that is somebody could be there for 14 days, not stay in for one night, and start the 14 days over again, repeat that process over and over and over. So that's why we went to in a calendar year to.
I mean, I can see a
prevent-
maximum, there's no doubt, but like across the street from me, they had that camper in there for, how long? A year.
We now have a shadowy dark figure in the
If you'd
corner.
like, I don't want to misspeak on your
Yeah.
point, so if you would like, Chief, you'd like to come up to the table.
And,
Answer any questions you may have.
Okay.
and I would also like to note, so we received an email comment from Trustee Poston, who's not in attendance tonight. And she also mentioned, she said, well, you know, we understand that the town always strives to work with people to come into compliance before just citing them into court. Is there less binary language that we can use? And the answer to that is for somebody to be prosecutable, there has to be a point at which
Right.
you no longer qualify under one scenario or now under another, and we can prosecute you for it. But again, as the chief certainly can discuss, you know, the town's attitude towards all code compliance issues is we want to work with our citizenry to voluntarily come into compliance, and prosecution really is the last resort that we go to. And Chief, please feel free to.
Chief, I'm here to answer any questions you may have or clarify anything that may be kind of gray.
Yeah, just, I was gonna read Trustee Poston's highlighted section here, not why she's not attending tonight, but the other one. She had written, please note, for the resolution regarding the tent prohibition on private property, please note the word prohibition. Even though we know our police department would work on a case-by-case basis, I do have concerns regarding that. We discussed this last time, you set up a tent in your backyard or your front yard with your kids. You know, it's not the intention of our police department to use this resolution to prosecute that.
No, we look at, as the attorney had mentioned, we look at every case on a case-by-case basis. And there's a lot of warnings and written warnings and other safety measures, if you would. Before, sorry. Okay. Before anything is, you know, taken into court or citations are issued. If it's kids camping in the backyard in the summer, we got a lot better things to do with our time. It's those that are taking campers, tents, sheds, and making it into auxiliary housing.
I guess I got no quarrels with it either. I'm just trying to, you know, like what I'm getting at is here, it's been a few years back, but a friend of ours, they had a fire over on M Avenue. Well, they stayed in their camper for about a month and a half while their house got remodeled. I don't want to cut something like that out where, you got to get, you know, I mean, is that something that can be, is this in stone or like something like that? They can come and say, hey, I gotta, you know.
There are two things that they teach us in the academy. There's the color of the law and the letter of the law. The letter of the law is, it's written down in this book verbatim, and that's what you follow. And there's the color of the law. Yes, it's there, but there's some shades, different shades of the black.
Okay, that's my concern. I just, you know,
Otherwise, the policy itself would be thousands of pages long. There'd be, in the event of fire, we can't create a policy that is that vast. We create a baseline policy, and then we trust in our law enforcement officials to manage it with humanity in mind, not just the binary nature of law.
And that's exactly right. It's the human factor. It's not black and white written in a book somewhere. If that was the case, we'd be issuing speeding tickets for a mile an hour over the posted speed limit, which you'll never see in this town.
So in practice, 14 days, and I'm not asking you to pick another number, some number of days after, there's a conversation, and then there's a second conversation. By the time any enforcement action were to even be needed, would be much greater than that 14-day number, in theory.
In theory. And, you know, if somebody has a wedding, or we're at the graduation season right now, hey, we're here to help set up whatever celebration we're doing, and we're going to be here for X amount of days. Come down and talk to us. Somebody's working on their house, and they're going to be in there for a month to get their CO and get everything done. Come talk to us. We're willing to work with anybody. It's those that want to really push that line is what this ordinance is for.
well, and I mean, I know that for a fact. There's been a couple of them, they've rendered them out as VBROs in time, you know, so there's got to be a line. I mean, we just can't allow that neither, so.
And once again, it's communication. The public with the police department, and the police department with the public.
Just as long as there's some give and take, that's all I care about, you know.
Absolutely, there's a lot of give and take.
Okay, that's all I care about then. I'm fine with it.
Any further questions before I open up the public hearing? Okay,
No, I don't have anything.
all right, sounds good. The time is 8:48 p.m. and I will open up the public hearing for ordinance number 6, series 2024. An ordinance of the town of Silt, Colorado, amending and updating town code to prohibit and limit camping within the town on public and private property. Persons desiring to make a public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program, or Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item.
No, none other than the one you just read.
All right,
I have no raised hands.
thank you. Would anyone in the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing no one in the public either, the time is 8:48 p.m. and I will close the public hearing. Open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the second reading of ordinance number 6, series 2024, as stated and presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan to approve the second reading of ordinance number 6, 2024, as presented. That was seconded by Trustee Clausen. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And thank you for joining us, Chief.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
can still call you to come and get my kids, though, right? From the backyard, just drag them out kicking and screaming.
Yeah, it's called.
Outstanding.
Okay.
We'll bring the water balloons.
No tasers?
You're going to call the cops on your own kids?
Okay.
Depends. It's up to them.
Okay, I can pull all my fifth wheels in there now.
Next item on the agenda is going to be the second reading of ordinance number 7, series 2024, where I'm going to leave the room for my conflict of interest and turn us over to Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan.
All right, as stated by the mayor, next item on the agenda, the second reading of ordinance number 7, series 2024, an ordinance of the town of Silt amending a land lease agreement between the town and Highwater Farm, a Colorado nonprofit corporation, for a lease of a portion of the Silt River Preserve known as parcel number 2179-094-00733. He always gives me the easy ones. And the really appurtenant water rights for the purpose of active agricultural production within the town of Silt, Garfield County, state of Colorado. And I will turn this over to Attorney Bond, or in this case, Attorney Sawyer.
Oh, yeah. Better do a better job of getting my name on the agenda.
You're more popular than you know.
So we had again a fairly detailed discussion about this at first reading. Just to recap, in 2020, the town entered into a lease with High Water Farms to develop a community agriculture program as part of the Silt River Preserve. In the intervening 4 years, we've learned some things that were best to be changed in that document. The prior town administrator also wanted to really promote or provide an incentive structure for High Water Farms to participate in town activities, to integrate what they're doing at high water on the other side of the river with the activities that happen over here. So we worked on an amended and restated lease. The term of the lease is not changing. It still is for the original 30 years that were contemplated. But there are some differing provisions. The staff memo kind of breaks those out category by category. No changes have been made to the lease since the first reading. And if there are specific questions about content in the document, I'm happy to answer those, but otherwise staff recommends approval of the ordinance on second reading.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I have nothing.
No.
That this is a no-brainer to me. I was over there 2 weeks ago for the Aspen Valley Land Trust gathering, and just looking at how they're already gearing up for the coming season. They're doing great work employing local kids. I think anything that the town of Silt can do to facilitate and enhance that is a guaranteed yes for me.
So this is a public hearing item, is an ordinance because it involves the lease of property for a period in excess of 1 year. So
no other comments before we open up the public part? Okay, I will open up the time is 8:53 p.m. and I will open the public meeting for the second reading of ordinance number 7, Series 2024. Persons desiring to make a public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raise hand function in the meeting program. Sheila, did we receive any calls or voicemails or emails?
No, I did not hear from anyone.
Okay. Any raised hands in the meeting program?
We do not have any raised hands. We do not have any raised hands.
Thank you. And no one else is here in chambers. The time is 8:53, and I will close the public hearing and open it back up to additional board comments, questions, or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 7, Series 2024 as presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Trustee Brentnall to approve the second reading of ordinance number 7, Series 2024 as presented, and that was seconded by Trustee Seifert. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I'll let the mayor know he can return. There he is.
Here he comes.
So I got a quick question. So that's still a quorum, right? Even though.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you had
Four.
four of 7, so
Yeah.
that was easy. And under the, I think both the charter as well as the open meetings law, if you start with a quorum and someone has to recuse, you don't lose your quorum.
Okay. Okay.
We did add a condition to fire your child, just full
Okay.
disclosure.
All right. She'll cry about that later. Next item on the agenda is administrator and staff reports. I believe we've all read through them. I don't know if we have any questions or anything specific on them.
Oh,
I do have one thing, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I just want to remind everybody of the upcoming CML district meeting that's going to be in Palisade on May 22nd. If anyone is interested in going, please let me know by end of day tomorrow is the deadline so that I can get a space reserved for you all.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question about the part of Town Manager Mann's notes on the status of the Family Dollar store. Do we have any additional mechanisms at our disposal to enforce the policies that they seem to willfully disregard continually since the inception of this project? Like I'm just wondering out loud if there's something additional we can do such that, I mean, I get it, it's a $26 billion company and they don't care about little old Silt, but at some point,
They care about being open, and until you issue a certificate of occupancy, they cannot be open.
Exactly.
and they're still not as of today, is that correct?
Exactly.
That's my understanding.
No, there's a red tag on the front door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's our mechanism. Is they're not doing what we asked, so now the building's been red tagged.
But staff and management are still allowed in to do whatever it is
No,
they choose to
no,
do,
they're
or
not.
they're also banned? In other words, the red tag is a literal physical
It's a
restraint
sticker.
from
The
getting
Doors,
through
Yes.
the door's sealed shut.
Well, that'll do.
Yeah.
My
Oh, yeah.
question has
They-
been answered.
They
Good. No.
violate that by,
Well, hopefully they don't sneak in through the back door, but the
No,
front
no.
door is yeah, sealed shut.
We'll put a sticker on that back door too.
Yeah. And
A C sign at front?
Yeah.
I think a point on that, though, is the issues we're having as a town is with the company building the building,
Yes.
not Family Dollar themselves. I mean, I'm guessing now that it's went to this point that we've red tagged the building, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree is now going to definitely have something to say
I hope
to
so.
that construction company. So, I mean, their end goal is to be open and start making money.
Yep.
Yes.
So, and having product sitting in a store that's closed isn't great for business.
I just know that their MO throughout this project has been continue until apprehended.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to hear that there's finally some serious steps being taken to force compliance.
Well, it seems like a lot of those issues were with the building and whatnot, not necessarily with the company itself. Yeah,
Yes,
so.
but ultimately, the company bears the responsibility
Yep.
for getting those construction companies to do what they need. I think we should also be wary of the next time that construction company is involved in another project. You know, fool me once versus fool me twice.
Right. Okay. Any other questions on staff comments or reports? No. Okay, then we will jump into updates from the board and board comments. Start with Trustee Britnell, since he's all down here by himself this week.
I actually don't have a whole lot this week. I'm good.
Okay. Trustee Clausen?
I have a few questions. And I guess the first one is for Interim Director Lundeen. They're adding all that dirt behind this Family Dollar store. Is there...
There were, when they tried to get their CO, those slopes were too steep. You couldn't get anything, so they need to add it to get it to be a 2-to-1 slope. They were close to a 1-to-1,
Oh, okay.
so that's why they're doing that.
Okay. All right. And I guess, let's see, I did that, and I don't know if this is a question for you or Nicole. The new storage west of town, what's exactly going on there? I see them moving a whole lot of dirt.
They started out with a clear and grow permit, which they went a little bit too far, and they got into our water line. So they've been shut down until it's in Nicole's department now, till it gets completely settled with all the permits. So
Oh, okay.
it's shut
Okay.
down.
All right, that, and what else? Oh, and I guess, yeah, this is for you, Nicole, too. The home that's behind the Good to Go Mart. I see a bunch of dirt and pipe laying back there.
Oh, that they're piping that drainage ditch
Uh-huh.
behind there for the home behind Good to Go.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
That's permitted
I,
in there.
I can speak to that as the HOA president. We have an agreement with that homeowner. The Town Home Association and the town was nice enough to get us some of the equipment needed and to provide some dirt and fill, I believe, as well to facilitate getting that done. It got delayed over the course of the winter because the ground was frozen. But I think,
Okay.
and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but they restarted that work last month.
They have restarted, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you
My
both
HOA
on
hat,
that.
so take it back off as quick as possible.
Yeah. And then I guess the alley being paved, behind the old Tim's Tools or the new Placida restaurant. I'm assuming that's going to be paved, and,
Yes, it
and that
is.
business there, are they paying for their portion of it, or is that part of the whole project?
The alley itself, the 15-foot alleyway,
Uh-huh.
is part of the project.
Okay.
And then the business there on the corner behind there,
Uh-huh.
they're paying for their
Okay.
portion. I believe the liquor store and the pizza place may ask to have theirs paved also.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for all of that. And the only other comment I have is, now that we have, the new Family Dollar, and I think this is more for Nicole or code enforcement, is there anything we could do with the existing Dollar General? Because their landscaping, there's elm trees all over it, and it's a mess, to be honest. So it would just, be nice to get their place, looking as nice as, the new Family Dollar.
So that would be a code enforcement issue, and Sheila or Amy, if you could pass on to Nicole or our code enforcement officer to go take a look at that. And, we have both standards within the town code. For that property, there will also have been a site plan that was approved that included a landscape component to it. And to the degree they're not abiding by the landscape plan, that might also be an avenue of getting them to clean things up.
Okay.
I'm sure Chief Kite heard all of that, and he will pass that on to his code enforcement officer.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And then I guess that was everything. Keep up the good work, staff. Thank you for everything you guys do.
All right. Trustee Seifert?
I got a couple of things. One, is it possible in the entrance by the post office to tear that one dead tree out?
Yes.
I've seen that. The other one's coming back. I see
Yeah.
that second one is starting to, but that other one, it'd look better without it there than that dead thing there, so.
If you like
Then I
another
just,
tree.
I want to thank everybody all the way to Attorney Sawyer for Tuesday's work session. It took a lot of people, Jeff, everybody to get that together. I think we had a great day of session and everybody worked together and it went real well.
I agree. Mayor Pro Tem?
How was the attendance at the Tuesday session and all the meet and greets and stuff?
3 board members and 2 members of the public
At the meet and greet.
at the meet and greet.
So an intimate gathering.
Very intimate, yes.
So to segue from what Trustee Seifert was saying, thanks to the trustees for their selection for the new town manager. I 100% agree with the choice, in spite of my being toiling away up in Canada and not able to attend. The weather was horrible, and the golf was awful, and the skiing and the biking were terrible, so there. Secondarily, congratulations to Jim, of course. I think it's a well-deserved position, and I think he's going to do a great job. I congratulated him privately, but wanted to make sure I expressed it publicly. Third, thanks to Trustee Poston, her husband Lee, as well as our Planning and Zoning Chair, Lindsay Williams, for attending the Chamber of Commerce's annual awards dinner a couple of weekends ago. It was a good event, some great conversations with people we don't normally get to talk with. The Chamber put on a good event. And it was also great to see Silt well represented at another, let's call it a regional event. I think our participation continues to be good at these things, and I think it's good for the town, because a lot of people seek us out to talk with us about stuff, but they can't if we're not there. Last, on a personal level, thanks to Sam. In spite of recent comments about him in the press, I think he represents the best of what Silt's community is and has to offer. I think Sam spoke when it mattered, and that makes his voice important. And I think because of that, it'll be missed. That's it.
Okay. My two things are, I don't necessarily need answers to tonight just because don't have everybody here, but if we could get an update maybe at the next meeting on the flock cameras. And then the status of the detox facility in Glenwood.
Follow up on that.
I think there's a ribbon cutting. I don't remember the exact date. I want to say May 23rd, but don't quote me on that. There's some sort of a grand opening event at the facility, the detox facility in Glenwood.
Okay.
You should have received invitations anyway via email, but maybe you didn't.
I didn't.
If not,
Come through, yeah.
I'll forward the date to everybody.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it was still moving forward or if it was stalled again, so.
There's your answer.
Yeah.
Report on the flock cameras. The first one has been installed over by the entrance to, on the frontage road, going to the truck stop, Golden Gate. Seems to be having some problems with some permits with CDOT, trying to get that squared away. So we're hoping relatively soon. We've also been notified, as of earlier today, that we received a grant to pay for the flock system.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Fantastic.
So we're hoping to get that money up and going and put back into our system.
Okay. All right. Great.
Question for you, was the flock system used, I'm just asking, when on that hit and run and rifle, when that's where they would use that system, was trying to find?
Yes. Yes, it is. They got one hit off one of the flock systems. I'm not sure if it was county or rifles, for what they were looking for. But once it got outside that bubble of where the cameras are, not sure which way it went.
Okay, I didn't know if that's what that would be something they would use it for.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And if we'd had ours in place, that could narrow down some of the search. If they came through town, or if they didn't come this way, they probably went the other direction.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many places they could have went south over Divide Creek or up anywhere. So many openings to head.
Exactly.
Or north over Harvey Gap. It's hard to say.
Yeah, but that's the intention of it. If something like that happens, and it increases the chance of quickly being able to get information. Yeah. Okay. That's the only things I had. Thank you for coming back in.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is going to be an executive session. So I will go ahead and I will make a motion to go into executive session for discussions of a personnel matter under CRS section 24-6-4024F and not involving any specific employee who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body or any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body or of an elected official, or personnel policies that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees. It's to discuss and update the board regarding contract negotiations for the appointment of a new town manager.
Second.
All right. Motion by myself, the mayor, to enter executive session, seconded by trustee Seifert. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All is opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We will take a recess here to get the executive session all set up. All right. As soon as we're unmuted, we'll get ready. All right. Can you hear us, Sheila?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Perfect. Go home.
Yeah. All right, the time is 9:33 p.m. and the executive session has concluded. No formal action was taken in the executive session. The participants in the executive session were no one entered the executive session and no one left the executive session. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violations of the open meetings law. I'd ask that you state your concerns for the record.
None.
And here.
And,
Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion by trustee Britnall to adjourn the meeting, seconded by trustee Seifert. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All is opposed? Motion carries unanimously.